Well, it's like now whenever I listen to either Sawbones or Schmanners, you can always hear Justin or Travis's kid like in the background, like the wife will be holding them and all of a sudden you'll just hear this, in the middle of an episode.
I love Sawbones though.
Well, I mean,
it's so good.
I'll be honest, like a well-finished podcast with no background noise whatsoever is very nice. However, like when it's a podcast, it's just a couple people hanging out and talking. Like I'm perfectly okay with hearing background noise.
Oh shit, we should get the feral dogs back.
Right, where's the roaming pack of fucking hounds?
Somebody was foxing out in the courtyard earlier. So.
It's the weirdest damn thing.
Okay, well, maybe we should go ahead and get the podcast started.
That sounds like a good idea.
What a novel concept.
So, welcome everyone to the Purpose Driven Dude. My name is Alex.
And I am Brad.
And I'm here too.
This is our guest, Adam. He's joining us tonight. So welcome.
Our first guest.
Yeah, it's our first guest episode.
I feel so illustrious.
You should.
This is the...
Or at least get that nice feeling of, huh.
Yeah, that's that's what that is.
We aim for at least a general sense of,
Yeah.
I think it's more of a, all right, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that too.
That works for me.
All right, so what's this podcast about, Alex?
So this is the Purpose Driven Dude, in which we discuss Dudism, the slowest growing religion in the world.
A religion based on the Big Lebowski.
Yep, also loosely based anyway on Taoism.
Or Buddhism.
Or Transcendentalism.
Or whatever.
Yeah, really whatever you like.
As long as the your philosophy is taken or easy, then it's cool.
Yeah, which I think Adam, you're here to talk about something similar with us tonight.
Yeah, talking about my journey along the Jedi path.
Yeah. My thinking on this is that we're kind of like an alt religion podcast, and
I call us brothers in robes.
Brothers in robes, yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
So and
we have weapons, we have sunglasses.
Yeah. And maybe bowling balls, I guess, if you really got to get down to it. But
oh yeah,
I mean, it worked against those nihilists.
It did work against the nihilists quite well, actually.
Yeah.
That's your duel of the fates.
I think I could.
The epic lightsaber duel of the Big Lebowski, in which Walter hurls a bowling ball at a nihilist, and then bites off the ear of another one.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, bites off the ear of another one, and hits Flea in the abdomen with a bowling ball. I mean,
yeah, man.
That's among my favorite Peter Stormares.
I mean, I have quite a few favorite Peter Stormares, so...
My absolute favorite might be the Russian Grim Reaper from Bad Boys 2, but that's a whole other conversation.
I mean, honestly, like, he was the best part of a horrible movie in Constantine, where he was Satan.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That scene is thoroughly entertaining.
I love it because... To me, every Peter Stormare role is like he shows up in the movie. You're like, oh shit, Peter Stormare's here.
Yeah,
and that one, it's like it's the last 10 minutes of the movie, and you're like, oh shit, Peter Stormare's here.
Yeah, and then he's in he did a video game recently, and I was like,
of course he did.
Yeah, I was like watching a playthrough, and they actually used his likeness for the video game.
Wonderful.
And had him voice this character, and I was like, oh shit, it's Peter Stormare, this video game.
I'm gonna open a beer.
Yeah, do it. I think that video game also had the dude from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Thank you.
The dude who was the dickwad, like in the latter half of the first season.
The handsome douchebag.
Yeah, the handsome
Grant Ward.
Oh yeah. I think he did a voice, and also the guy from Mr. Robot.
The one who's playing Freddie Mercury?
Yeah, Malik Ramey. Yeah,
nice.
He was in the video game as well.
This was what video game was this?
I think it's called like Until Dawn or something.
Oh shit!
like that.
Yeah, I've
You
heard
know
of
my
that
favorite
game.
part of this podcast is how focused.
Oh yeah, we excel at focus.
I didn't even do any weed tonight.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
haven't
You
smoked.
do weed?
Yes.
Well, we should actually do our quick podcast with the podcast of what we're drinking. I think this has been fun so far. So,
sure.
So Adam, you were kind enough to bring over some 805 from one of my favorite breweries, Firestone Brewing.
Yeah, I felt it was a good balance for
Firestone
the
Walker.
tastes we have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an excellent beer.
Well, I don't want to say hometown favorites.
Just don't let anybody I work for hear me say that.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing you didn't say that on a recording that's going out to the world or anything.
I will definitely edit that out.
I totally told my boss I was going to tell him whenever the podcast dropped, and I've completely forgotten for like 5 months.
And now you can just conveniently forget.
Forgotten.
Yeah.
As we shill for fucking Firestone every other episode.
Yeah, that has happened a few times, hasn't it?
Yeah, well. What are you drinking? It's not Firestone.
Oh, yeah, no, I am drinking the Glorious Galaxy Pale Ale from Lord Hobo Brewing.
Wonderful.
Which, they are out of, I believe, New Jersey?
I like the first two words of that.
Yeah. No.
And the
delicious.
last two. Go New Jersey. See my shirt?
Oh, yeah. It is a New Jersey shirt
Yeah.
representing the Garden State.
There you go. Yeah, no, the state that I know very, very little about, aside from all the shade it gets from New York.
It's a delightful place. It's mostly pine forest. That pine forest is also where the mafia hides their bodies.
I was about to
But,
say,
you
is that
know,
where Chris Christie hides all the bodies?
I mean, I don't know if he personally is involved.
The half-consumed bodies, I'm assuming?
Wow.
Knowing Chris Christie. Yeah, suck it, Chris Christie. You listening? Fuck you.
Are you implying that he eats them to gain his strength?
I'm implying that he eats them to gain his weight.
We shouldn't fat shame him, but he is a douchebag, so
Yeah.
fuck that guy.
Remember that time he closed all of the state's beaches, but he and his family still managed to have a beach
I
day?
do
Remember that time he literally killed someone by closing a bridge?
Yeah.
He's the worst.
So anyway, Jedis.
Jedis. Well, let's go ahead and get on track with this podcast and actually go through our segments. So
We've only been recording for 14 minutes.
bear with us because we're gonna go on a lot of tangents today. It's gonna be good times.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm fine with
excited.
this.
I'm excited about this.
So we'll go ahead and dive into particularly Doodly then. We'll get our first segment in here. So this one fell to me this week, and I had a couple options for this one coming out of this last week or so of news. I found one today actually, which I couldn't help but just sort of like smile for. And the headline, this is from BBC News, BBC Trending specifically, is Schwarzenegger message helps inspire struggling fans. So I don't know if you guys heard about this story.
I did not.
No.
So, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like pretty much all celebrities these days, has a Twitter presence, right, like a social media presence. And like for as far as I can tell, he's maybe not the most active person on these things. But he had a fan.
What, a 70-year-old bodybuilder isn't the most active Twitter user?
Well, yeah.
I mean, are you trying to say negative things about Hercules in New York?
I mean, actually, no. I find that movie thoroughly delightful.
As you were, Alex.
Well, anyway, so a Twitter user, and I love the name, I'm going to say the name, by the username U-7770059834333178, descriptive, tweeted at Arnold Schwarzenegger over the weekend. And he tweeted to Arnold, he said, "I know this is pandering, but I've been depressed for months and haven't hit the gym during that time. Mr. Schwarzenegger, can you please tell me to get off my lazy ass and hit the gym? I swear to everything I hold dear that I will snap out of it and go." Right, so this guy, just a fan of Arnold and a fan of working out, basically, has been in a funk, has been, well, possibly clinically depressed.
I loved him in King Lear.
Yeah.
Arnold.
Yeah.
He gets it.
Yeah, no, I
he
get
gets
it.
But tweeted out at Arnold and was just like, I don't get it.
Sure.
And was like, I could use some help. And Arnold Schwarzenegger actually replied directly to this guy on Twitter.
That's awesome.
was about to say.
And said, but his reply was actually really cool. So his reply was, I'm not going to be that hard on you. Please don't be that hard on yourself. We all go through challenges. We all go through failure. Sometimes life is a workout, but the key thing is you get up. Just move a little, roll out of bed and do some push-ups or go for a walk. Just do something, one step at a time. I hope you feel better and get back to the gym, but don't beat yourself up because that's just useless talk. It doesn't get you closer to the gym, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's fantastic.
Like, it was just this amazing response.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, dude, I went straight to the gym. Like, fucking A. Yeah. But that aside, like, the response on Twitter has been just overwhelmingly positive. Like, some people have said, like, maybe this isn't the best advice for someone who's, like, clinically depressed. But most people, and even the guy himself, was like, look, man, like, it got me off my ass. It gave me the motivation I needed to, like, fucking, like, get out of bed. Which is, like, the struggle sometimes, right? Like, especially if you have, like, clinical depression or you have these sort of issues. So, like, it's just, like, one of those rare stories to come out of Twitter where, like, something good happened. And,
hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I figured it would be worth highlighting. So
I dig that. Yeah.
Well, Schwartzy, like, well done. That's
yeah.
I mean, I like to imagine that you guys are close enough that he knows you call him Schwartzy.
Yeah, he's a long
Can't
time
wait
listener.
till the first time I ever meet Arnold Schwarzenegger and he just fucking decks me for that one.
You find out that it's like, back in where's he from? Is he from Austria?
Austria.
Yeah, back in Austria when he was a little boy in, like, his school uniform, he was made fun of by all the other kids who called him Schwartzy. Yeah. That's what really put him in the gym in the first place.
I just triggered Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Would he say he was triggered, though? He doesn't seem like a kind of person who would.
No, I don't think he would say it. Doesn't make him not punch you in the face.
I was about to say, I think his massive fist, like, crashing through my skull would be all the saying that needed to happen there.
Right.
And then he would say something pithy, like, trigger this.
Yeah.
One can only hope. But anyway, so I think that's a very worthy, particularly doodly for the day.
Yeah, I'll take it.
100%.
I mean, we're not trying to pick out problematic people necessarily. I know Arnold Schwarzenegger has had his bevy of issues over the years. That's a different podcast. If you'd like to dissect problematic faves, there's another podcast on our network.
Yeah, there just so happens to be another podcast for that.
I am familiar with this. Yes.
Yeah, but Schwarzenegger did a good thing. So I think it's worth.
I'm not gonna to take away from the fact that the man actually did something very good for this person.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So for particularly doodly, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, and I just want to point out the doodliness of the man who reached out to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Like he was in a really dark, low place from his own description, and I know how hard that can be sometimes. And the fact that, like, he didn't just reach out; he reached out to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. And I mean, that's in and of itself that step can be a little daunting.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
When you're actually reaching out to someone for help.
Right.
And he happened to reach out to, someone who he obviously has a lot of respect and admiration for. Mm-hmm. So being able to take that step in and of itself is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it seems like weirdly Twitter, being the general hellscape that it is, does seem to have its like moments of good for especially like mental health things, right? Because like Dan Harmon had a situation like this a while back where he like really like tried to like pop up someone. Yeah. And so if there's a glimmer of fucking light in Twitter, maybe that's what we can glean here.
Well, I mean, if I ever find myself in a hellscape, I want Schwarzenegger to come save me.
Well, sure.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Which is why he needs to play Duke Nukem. The end.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger showing up and saying "get to the chop" is pretty much the only good solution in a hellscape.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm glad we've covered this.
Yeah, we've. I think we've done it.
All right, tangent number 6.
Yeah.
This brings us to a close on this part of the seminar.
Yeah. And I think kind of rounds us out of particularly doodly, but that brings us around to our main topic today, which is Adam, why you are here.
Hello.
So.
Hi.
So, as a bit of a setup, we were talking the other day about doing like weddings and stuff like that as a Dudist priest. I've done one. I'm actually slated to do another one later this year. And you had mentioned that you were getting into not Jediism. That's not the right word for it.
Right. No, I generally refer to it as following the Jedi path.
Okay. But we were talking about this, and you're asking me like if I had gotten ordained through the Universal Life Church, and,
Right.
And no, actually, like Dudism is its own kind of separate thing, because you were looking for a way to get ordained, but not necessarily through like one of the official Jedi things, right?
Right.
So.
Which I am now an ordained Jedi minister through the Universal Life Church.
Cool.
I'm not affiliated with either of the two recognized Jedi churches, which I like to say makes me a rogue Jedi.
Ah,
Yeah.
Cool.
But
we're getting into like dark forces territory here.
sure. So basically, I was having this conversation with Brad the other night, and really what it comes down to for me is that like Jedi is just a fun heading for what I was pretty much already doing, where, looking into Taoism and Buddhism, and I was raised Episcopalian, and let's not pretend that Anakin Skywalker isn't just an extremely like on the nose Christ metaphor, but at least in Phantom Menace. But yeah, so like there's definitely parts of like you can see when Lucas was putting this all together, like you can see where he pulled from the different faiths and the different ideas.
Yeah.
So
totally.
So to me, it's like this is just like a fun way of putting all of these ideas that I was already having under a single heading.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was there something in particular that drew you to Jedi as opposed to just following like Taoism or Buddhism or any of that? What drew you specifically to the Jedi path?
Lightsabers? No.
Fair. Totally fair.
No. I would say, again, because I was raised Episcopalian, I feel like anything I do, like I was saying, if someone were to break into my house and put a gun to my head and say, what are you? I would probably say a Christian, because that's how I was raised. I think of religion as something like the three blind men and the elephant.
Okay.
Yeah, like, all the different faiths are really just trying to find a way to describe the same thing from just way different angles. So, that's why in college I took a world religions class, and I started getting really into like some of the Taoist ideas, and even like we were discussing like the way that the Tao is described, even though they say very explicitly that the Tao is not God, that deities exist within the Tao.
Indeed.
Still, that idea, I go back to like Giordano Bruno. He was Giordano Bruno. Yeah, he was a Renaissance Benedictine or Franciscan monk.
Franciscan.
Yeah, Franciscan. And he's also considered to be like the father of like theoretical physics and cosmology, because he was a monk who had this revelation that like all the stars are just really distant suns that might have their own planets, and he said your God is too small.
Mentored Tycho Brahe, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said like your traditional vision of God is too small. Like you need to have this much larger idea. And so I 100% agree with that. So my vision of God has always been very much in line with what, I then would come to find out is the Tao. Which, you start merging those two, eventually it just becomes the Force.
Well, which we've touched on this podcast, I think a couple times now, where probably the most well-known analog in Western civilization at this point to Taoism is Star Wars.
Sure.
Like at large, and the Force specifically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Very specifically, the Force, as described in the original series, is I mean, even the verbiage is pretty damn similar.
Totally.
So like the way that the Force is, like I brought up the book The Jedi Path, which came out in 2010, and it's the only real up till now book they've put out that just breaks down like this is what the order is, this is how it works, this is the code, this is the practices, all that kind of stuff, and it's meant as like an in-universe manual for Padawans. But when you read about their description of the Force, what the Force is, which by the way, the three pillars of the Jedi faith are the Force, self-discipline, and now I'm going to embarrass myself.
What kind of minister are you?
You know what? Shh. That's what kind.
A newly indoctrinated one. So,
Yes, thank
I
you.
got shushed on my own podcast. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the Force, knowledge, and self-discipline. And so, that continuing search for, I think, is an extremely important part of it. But as they talk about the Force, is that, it's so unbelievably massive that it really manifests as two main parts. There being the unifying force, which is, as Yoda and Obi-Wan described it, like, that's the cosmic level. That's, the stars, and, like, that's what's holding and binding it all together.
Surrounds us
and
together.
binds us, yes.
Which is, like, exactly what I'm talking about whenever I'm like, yeah, that is straight up lifted from Taoism.
But the surrounds us is actually also in reference to the living force, which Qui-Gon makes a point in Phantom Menace, makes a point of telling Obi-Wan, Yoda may tell you to be mindful of the future. That's being mindful of the will of the Force, which is the unifying force. But you cannot do that at the expense of the moment. You have to be mindful of the living force, because that's what's happening around us right now. That's the life. When you go for a walk in the woods and you see the trees and the animals, and, like, that's the living force.
Yeah. Can't think about what those trees are going to look like 100 years from now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That makes sense. And, I mean, yeah, it brings it around to, I guess, the Taoism and Buddhism of it in a way, too, because it's like, well, we were talking about this earlier. It's like, I feel like the Venn diagram, you got like 3 circles. You got like Buddhism, Taoism, and the Jedi path. And like, there is a very strong center to that. Like, these circles are very strongly overlapping. Like,
they're practically on top of each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. And it's like that kind of Taoist mentality of like, mindfulness in the moment, mindfulness generally, but like a real presence in the moment, but also like I guess also like a trying to perceive the way, essentially.
Right, you're right.
Like,
so I've gone ahead and brought up the Jedi Code for you, which in here each section of it they give like a little mini description, but I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version, because there's actually 2 different I want to say translations, but 2 different versions that I've seen. And I'll give you the one they have printed here and then tell you about the second one. But this one says, "There is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force." Now that's one version of it. And that one I think is interesting, and you can read a lot into it. The one I prefer, though, actually says, "There is emotion, yet peace. There is ignorance, yet knowledge." Like, recognizing the fact that these 2 things do coexist.
Yeah, I was about to say that really embraces the duality that we talk about a lot on this this show, which I think speaks really, just really plaintively for just how connected these two philosophies are.
Absolutely, yeah,
totally.
And I mean, like, I joke about brothers in robes, but yeah, seriously, like, listening to you guys initially as you were describing Dudism, I definitely recognize a lot of, again, like, the path that I was already on with myself. And then, as I was joking about earlier, like, I threw myself into Star Wars hardcore in the past couple years, just as, like, a way to stop watching the news.
Yeah.
And in going through that process and really, like, diving deep into what the Jedi talk about, what they teach, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm already on this path. Like, I'm already doing this. So this is, it's a fun little extra.
Yeah. That's cool. And I mean, I was thinking about this actually when we were talking earlier about it. I was thinking, well, so like basically the first movie I remember watching as a kid was Star Wars. Like, that was yeah. Fun little fact. My dad had it recorded on VHS, like off like
well, that's
TV.
Just charming as shit,
right?
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
I mean, it's been in my life since as far back as I can literally remember. Like, I love Star Wars, and yeah. So I mean, I get it.
We all love Star Wars.
We really do.
If you don't love Star Wars, you are cordially invited to stop listening to the podcast.
I mean, do you have fans to spare?
Ouch. Tough criticism.
Damn. Why'd we ask him on here?
I don't want to go so far as to say that. I mean, like, I know people who aren't huge Star Wars fans. I don't understand it, but at the same time, like, yeah, I've been watching it since I was a kid, and as I've gotten older, I keep getting more and more and newer things out of it too. Like,
Right.
I mean, my last rewatch of Empire, I got I picked out something I'd never noticed before, like quite literally during the Dagobah scenes.
Right.
Which is great. Like, I mean, you can. It's one of the sort of movies that you can revisit over and over again throughout your life and get new things out of.
May I ask what?
Yeah, so in Empire Strikes Back, this I guess it's not really a spoiler. If you haven't seen Empire Strikes Back, go watch Empire Strikes Back. But
We'll wait here.
We'll wait. Yeah, pause the podcast. Go watch Empire Strikes Back. It's one of the best movies ever made.
Agreed.
Indeed.
And but so there's a scene kind of towards it's maybe like the midpoint of like Luke's training on Dagobah, and he's like exhausted, right? He's been like jumping around and doing flips and all sorts of cool shit, and he's like kind of unwinding for the day, and he like kind of gets like this chill, and he says like, "Oh, like what's over there?" And he asks Yoda, "What's like over like in that part of the swamp?" And Yoda says, "Oh, it's like the dark side is strong there, like." You shouldn't go there, basically. And he's like, well, I'm going to go check that out. And Yoda's like, I mean, okay, bro, whatever you want, essentially. Right. I'm paraphrasing big time. But, and Luke's like, well, what will I find? And like, as he's like kind of strapping on his belt, like getting ready to go, and Yoda says, only what you take with you.
Right.
And as he's strapping on his belt, I realized, oh, he's going in there with Anakin's lightsaber, with Darth Vader's lightsaber, and then what does he find there? He finds like this like vision of Darth Vader.
Right.
Like it's just a little subtle thing, small thing, but I'd never noticed that before.
Yeah, and it's not only that, but that vision of Darth Vader that is the haunting possibility.
Yeah, and then he fights him with that lightsaber.
Right.
And you're like, oh, like it's just a subtle little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come, and it's so, but it's so poignant and so well done that I've missed it for years. Like I picked this out at like age like 30, 31. That was a couple of years ago now, and I've been watching Star Wars my entire life. So.
Well, and I think one of the fantastic things about Star Wars, because Lucas was really, like Joseph Campbell has said the best student he ever had was George Lucas, because like he would go back and forth throughout the process of writing it, back and forth to Joseph Campbell, be like, did I get this right? Is this how this is supposed to, this is the process. Like,
right.
And so at the end of the day, it's such a perfect version of, the monomyth, like the myth that we can all understand and identify with, and we find our place in it. And so as a whole, because he really did oversee like the larger canon. I know you guys haven't gotten into Clone Wars yet, but it's one of those ones like I guarantee you give it the time, it will grow on you.
I got your message of like the order to watch everything in.
I'm working on getting the both of them in on this. The handful of you out there that are Clone Wars fans, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, my point is the larger world as a whole is really all built in that same kind of monomyth language that, basically, as I was saying, like the entire canon becomes like your parabolic lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's archetypal hero's journey.
Right.
And we were just talking about this because I've actually never watched The Power of Myth, but I will recommend a kind of another little side note to that. I don't know if we've talked about it on the show yet, but there's a YouTube channel called Crash Course, which is excellent. It's John and Hank Green primarily. They're the ones at least who started it. But they did a mythology series in which they really broke down the monomyth structure and everything, and it was excellent. So.
I never write anything without at least sitting down and staring at the monomyth and breaking down like. Going through the steps and being like, all right, well, this is where I see this happening, and this is how I can imagine this happening, and because I feel like that's just a strong foundation for whatever story you're intending on telling.
Yeah,
and I mean, Star Wars just speaks to just how powerful of a storytelling device it can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Love or hate the prequels, the Emperor Palpatine and his rise to power and everything. Like it's just like deviously brilliant. Like,
it's Machiavellian in the extreme.
Right. And that's the thing is, like, he is evil. Like, he is so deeply evil. He is identifiable as evil. Just as, like, Darth Vader was the first time you saw him when he steps aboard the Tantive 4. Like, just iconically, you look at him and that guy's evil.
Yeah.
He's the boogeyman of your dreams. Like...
I mean, John Williams' score really kind of spells it
Yeah,
out
that
for you
helps.
right there.
Yeah, that helps.
The music cues are pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Yeah, last week, whenever I went to Star Wars Live at the Hollywood Bowl, yeah, hearing that music cue happen as Darth Vader like steps onto screen for the first time literally gave me goosebumps. I've probably seen this movie 40 or 50 times in my life, and it still gave me goosebumps just to hear that musical cue.
Can I just say that one of my absolute favorite things about the movie Rogue One is that you go back to the original Star Wars, A New Hope. You know, for those of you in the larger canon, A New Hope. But yeah, you go back to that one. When Vader steps on screen, you automatically know how terrifying he is.
Oh yeah.
So with Rogue
One,
One,
that movie is ball retracting,
right?
horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean,
But like that's my point. Like Rogue One taking place like 10 minutes before A New Hope, you see him just like be that boogeyman. Like the look on the crew's face when the lightsaber comes on, and you realize like they've only heard myths and legends about this.
Yeah, they have no idea what's about to happen.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It was one of the most
They know
effective
it's gonna
scenes.
be bad.
Right.
It was one of the most effective scenes of that damn movie, man. Like, and that's the thing. Like,
In an incredibly effective movie.
Oh yeah.
yeah. But like the last 5 minutes of that film turned into a fucking horror film.
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden, like the music stops and there's a chill and everyone's like, "What's about to happen?" And like you just like lightsaber, and then dudes are getting like fucking torn apart.
And
like,
one of my absolute favorite things about it is, and it's super subtle, the music during that whole sequence, the choir is singing in Sith. Which they use that in Duel of the Fates. They used it a lot in the prequels whenever like a Sith Lord was doing something, like they have a choir singing in Sith.
Was it Duel of the Fates where whenever you actually translate, it turns out they're singing about trees?
I'd have to look again. I had a
one of
girlfriend who
those.
sang choir, and they did like Duel of the Fates in concert.
Yeah,
which is pretty great.
like it's one of the songs from the prequel trilogy. When you actually do the translation on it, they're singing about trees.
Yeah, but what about trees?
I don't remember exactly.
I feel like there's probably an important message there.
I mean, well,
It's not just like instructions for making ramen,
yeah, no, I don't think it is.
which
but,
are also important, but
in a different way, though.
yeah.
That would be highly entertaining, though, if like
Sure.
you translate all these Sith texts, and it turns out it's just a bunch of really great ramen recipes.
By the way, if you have any interest in digging into the larger universe, I will say that the current Darth Vader comic is fantastic because it picks up shortly after Revenge of the Sith and is all about his. He ends up becoming the leader of a group of fallen Jedi called the Inquisitorius. And it's basically their job to just like...
Nobody expects the Sith Inquisitorius.
Sure.
Yeah.
But...
Sorry, I had to think about it a little bit too much.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is that it's the Inquisitorius were the ones tasked with hunting down the Jedi who survived Order 66.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which then actually brings me back around to an earlier point, which is that in the Jedi Path, they described that when you make the rank of Jedi Knight, there are essentially 3 career paths you can take. There's the Jedi Consul, who are more like the diplomats. They'll be sent out as ambassadors. You also have the Jedi Guardians. They're like your swashbuckling heroes. But there's also the Jedi Sentinel, which is my absolute favorite. And the idea being, I believe it's the Jedi Guardians carry blue sabers, and Jedi Consuls carry green sabers. But the Jedi Sentinel, he's more the guy that they would station him. Like, you would have this sector of space, and you're just going to, like, walk the land of this section of space and make sure that everything is, on the up and up, helping people who need help, all that kind of stuff. Like, essentially, like... a Ronin, not so much in not having a master, but just like you are out there living among the people. We always think of Jedi as being like, kind of lofty. But these guys like really live among the people. And while they may not be masters of the saber or masters of diplomacy, they find a good balance and then also include the different lessons that they take from the people that they're living with. So they could be, slicers, which that's hacking in the Star Wars world. They call them slicers. They could be slicers. They could be, mechanics. They could be artists. But it's like they balance these skills put just as much importance on them as they do on their lightsaber training and their diplomacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put it in a historical context. Reminds me a little bit of the Knights Hospitaller.
Okay.
From the Crusades.
Well, so you mentioned something. You said that you there's like you attain the rank of Jedi Knight, right? So maybe if you could like walk through like how that goes, right? So what's the like kind of system of like ranking and everything?
Okay, so within the world, the idea would be that Force-sensitive children would be found and brought to the temple on Coruscant by Jedi recruiters, which there are some stories. Ahsoka Tano, who was Anakin's Padawan, she originally was actually recruited by a false Jedi recruiter who was going to sell her.
Oh.
And then she got rescued. But yeah, so you would come in and you become a Jedi initiate. And you work your way from Jedi initiate to eventually you are chosen by a Jedi Knight to be their Padawan. So that's how you attain the level of Padawan. Once you reach the point where you have completed, there's like the trial of the flesh, the trial of the mind, the trial of courage. Once you complete all those trials, and they say that failing one is equal to failing all of them. But you have to pass all of those trials and then actually go before the council, and the council makes the final decision about who attains knighthood. And then you're actually knighted by having your lightsaber, having your Padawan braid sliced off with a lightsaber. It's very close to like, they may or may not take off an ear, but the Force will guide them.
You just really hope that they're not having a shaky day.
Right.
So how does that play out? Since you're doing like this kind of like lone Jedi thing, how does that play out?
I mean, I've been looking at things that I've done and things that I can do as essentially analogs for the different trials. Trial of the Flesh, I imagine the fact that I ran the LA Marathon last year probably goes with that.
Sure.
Trial of Courage, I hiked the Inca Trail and traveled international to South America on my own.
Okay.
Like things like that, which in the grand scheme, are they super impressive? I don't really think so, but I recognize that not everybody does them. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, like that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And there are still a few things that I need to do, but I have constructed a lightsaber.
Rad.
Yeah.
You actually brought it with you tonight. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
We'll post photos on.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's super cool.
But just a different angle from the one you sent to me when I thought it was a vape.
Yes. But even with that, with the design I went for was, as I was describing, kind of the lone samurai, like just out there walking the earth. And in fact, the Jedi Sentinels carry amber lightsabers. So when I finish the electrical guts of this one, it's going to be an amber blade.
Ah,
very cool.
Interesting.
Okay, so it's like you're not necessarily going to go before like a council.
No, because I don't have. Again, not affiliated with any of the Jedi churches, which, I don't have anything negative to say about them. I just look at what they do and what they teach, and I just recognize that it's not for me. It's they're doing their own variation on what they believe the Jedi would be doing in the real world, which I respect. And as long as you're not hurting anybody, great. So, I'm going to let them do them, and I'll do me, and yeah.
That's how I feel about most religions and philosophies and practices. Like, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, then good on you.
I mean, that's basically the Dudist philosophy right there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them in Australia.
I've heard that. Yeah. Well, it's Australia and the UK.
I'm just thinking, the trial of the flesh and the trial of courage would be pretty easy to accomplish in Australia because I feel like
it's called walking out your front door.
It's like walking anywhere in Australia would be a trial of the flesh and a trial of courage.
Right.
Shout out to our Australian listeners. I don't know if you noticed this last week, actually. We some more people in Australia are listening, so shout out to you guys.
The bravest
Congrats.
fucking people on earth right there.
Hell yeah, dude.
Oh, and to my Jedi brothers in Australia, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.
I know, I feel like I gotta say it every single time. That Christian upbringing, man.
Right? Yeah, I know. That Protestant
I do that a
upbringing.
lot. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's just good stuff. Well, okay, so you're forming your own kind of like system of you're going off of your own personal experiences to form these trials,
Right.
And that's cool. I dig it. Yeah, it's far more structured than I think what we've been going for with
Go
our
figure.
thing, which makes perfect sense. I mean, if the only tenets of our faith are smoking the occasional J, drinking an oat soda, and going bowling from time to time, and taking it easy, then yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I respect the shit out of what you guys do.
Yeah.
So
same with me, man. This sounds really cool to me.
I was about to say, I'm finding all of this fascinating. That's why I'm not doing a whole lot of talking right now. Is I'm just like, oh.
Here, I'm going to bring up the section on the trials, actually. Which, by the way, I wanted to talk to you because I know you have like a history in stage combat. So, the whole thing with lightsabers is kind of like Tai Chi. It's the martial art of the faith.
Yeah.
And it's mostly about the self-discipline. So, yeah, I just wanted to float that idea of, like, teach me stuff.
Okay.
Well, we've been talking. I know for a while there. Eventually we're going to do a Tai Chi episode.
Yeah. As soon as I actually managed to make it to more than one class.
Yeah, Brad and I did a class a while back here in LA over at Griffith Park.
We did the sword form.
We did the sword form, and I was thinking about that with the lightsaber thing. Actually, that was it was a lot of fun. It was very very informative. I definitely feel like I need to learn more about it.
Absolutely,
sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
It was amazing.
And we should.
Anybody's ever got a free Saturday morning in LA? There's a wonderful Tai Chi class in Bronson Park.
I think it's technically Bronson Park. It's part of Griffith Park.
It's part of Griffith, but it's like the other side of Griffith.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the 5 trials of a Jedi.
Okay.
I'll give the heading and the description. The trial of skill demonstrates a Jedi's competence with a lightsaber and the Force principles of control. Trial of courage establishes a Jedi's skill and fortitude in the face of danger and overwhelming odds. Trial of spirit tests a Jedi's ability to vanquish inner battles and emerge unscathed. Trial of the flesh determines a Jedi's capacity to overcome great pain. And the trial of insight reveals a Jedi's aptitude for distinguishing reality from illusion through deceptive challenges.
Okay.
So some of those I'm still going to have to come up with an analog for and work my way through.
Sure.
That last one sounds like kind of like escape room territory.
Right? Yeah. A little bit.
Which could be super fun.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do one of those for a while now.
One of my buddies works at one.
Oh, cool.
Well, let's make that happen.
Yeah, we should totally make that happen.
Dudes, go to the escape room.
And then we just smoke a J and never get out.
And just end up lost in the maze. You'll make it out because you're the Jedi. We'll just be like wandering around until time's up, I feel.
Yeah,
this looks like might be a switch. No, fuck.
I'll smoke the J once I'm outside.
Right. That's the trial really is foregoing the weed until after the escape room.
Oh man, it's funny just talking about escape rooms. I spend several days a week in Simi Valley. Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, I know. It's my own trial. I was just like coming out of an account the other day, and I see that there's an escape room place in Simi Valley now, but it's literally called Simi Escape.
That seems appropriate.
I mean, I'm a little bit mad at them, but at the same time, like,
I'm like, hey man, you were working with the material that was handed
to
you, and well done.
Escape the hell on earth known as Simi Valley. Go!
It's very hot in Simi Valley for people who don't know anything about it. And there's a lot of sort of conservative cop culture.
Okay, is it Simi Valley I'm thinking of that's technically radioactive?
No, that's somewhere else.
It's some part of the valley that's technically radioactive.
I would have to look into that.
Yeah.
Although if it's Panorama City, that makes a lot of sense.
It does track. Well, no, Simi Valley is where the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library is.
Yes.
Makes me so mad because they have a Genghis Khan exhibit up right now, and I really want to go see it, but I also really don't want to go to the Reagan Library.
Look, I'll say this about the presidential libraries. I've been to one. I've been to the Nixon Library down in Yorba Linda, and I gotta say, like, I was pleasantly surprised when I went to that one.
I'm not saying that the Reagan Library is necessarily bad. I just have a problem with the fact that it's the Reagan Library.
Right, well, no, but follow me down, come with me on this stupid fucking journey, because, like, I went to the Nixon Library as part of a class when I was in library, taking courses in library and information science.
Why, but I feel like I'm going to lose a kidney at the end of this journey.
Hopefully not a toe. But so I went down there, and there's two distinct sides, and I'm pretty sure the Reagan Library is kind of like this, and most of them are, where you have the National Archives branch, right, which is a federal institution. It's kind of open to the public kind of thing, and then you have like the privately held sort of like foundation, essentially, and their own private exhibits. Now, I expected it to be very pro Nixon, right? That's what you'd expect from like the Nixon Foundation.
Yeah, probably.
I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, actually. It was very much just sort of taking a bold look, or just a bald look, really, at his like all the controversy, right? There's a lot on Watergate. Huh. There was it was fairly even-handed from what I could tell. I was incredibly surprised. Now, look,
I would not have thunk it.
I would not have thunk it. Now, I can only assume that the Reagan Library, I have not been. My deeply held political beliefs tell me that it's probably like Mecca for conservatives these days, and I mean,
it's in Simi Valley.
Yeah, so you might as well be. I don't know if people like make pilgrimages to this damn place. I don't know what it's like, but I will say this: the federal branch, right, like the National Archives branch there is probably just like it was at the Nixon Library, where you can go, you can look up documents. It is a functioning archive with archivists who are professional archivists. Like it's
very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool.
It's still a very wonderfully professional library. So
absolutely, and so I gotta defend my brothers and sisters in the
nothing
archives.
Against the fact that it's an archival library.
And by the way, I looked it up. It is a portion of Simi Valley is radioactive.
So it is Simi Valley.
Cool. So boy, I drank the water there. Am I going to die or am I stronger than ever? Like how?
I mean,
could break either way, I suppose.
I think it all depends. Are you pro Putin?
No.
Then I think you're going to die.
Have you developed a third eye anywhere?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that he can see.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Just kind of softball that one in there, just like lob it in.
Kind of just underhanded that one and fucking hit it into left field.
It was right there. It was right. Yeah. What was I going to do, not say it?
Well played. Well played.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's the kind of quality material you can expect from the purpose-driven dude, folks.
I'm going to go ahead and call that my trial of skill.
And done. Check mark.
Just check that one off the list.
Well, so I guess, were there any other points on the Jedi Path that you wanted to talk about?
I mean, really, I would just say that I think... so when you get into Clone Wars, you'll see that, like, there is a point, I'll admit, if you just watch the movies, where you see that Yoda's perspective on the Force differs between, like, the earlier, like, I'd say episodes 1 and 2. You get a little bit of it in episode 3, and then huge jump where you see him in Empire, and he's been living out there by himself. Mm-hmm. And what is actually explained to us both in Clone Wars and in some of the more expanded stuff is that after Qui-Gon Jinn's death, he was, like, I would say before Qui-Gon's death, the idea of any Jedi or any Force user preserving their consciousness in the Force, completely unheard of. And so there's a point in Clone Wars towards the end of the series when he actually manages to contact Yoda from the other side. All the other Jedis think that Yoda's going insane with his age.
They vaguely touch on that in Revenge of the Sith.
Right. Because what I'm describing takes place pretty much immediately before Revenge of the Sith. So when he talks about Qui-Gon reaching out, that's why. And the entire reason that he goes to Dagobah when he goes into exile is because he's actually training under Qui-Gon from beyond the grave. Oh. And so, like, when he's, like, really talking about, the Force surrounding us and binding us and all that stuff, like, it's because he has this newfound understanding of the living Force on top of the unifying Force.
It also just happened to be way outside the Empire, sort of, Yeah. No one was going to go look for him on a swamp.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And, you know, it's like even if they did, you have to think those stormtroopers would just sink right to the bottom of that shit.
Well, I mean, Solo has showed us that they did have mud troopers.
Still haven't seen Solo.
Oh, it's good.
I need to see it so
It's
bad.
It's fun. It's definitely fun.
It's way better than I think it got a rap for.
Sure.
Like, it was a perfectly good movie. I enjoyed
And
it.
that's one of those ones that when people asked me what I thought of it, I said, like, as a moviegoer, it's okay. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, I had fun. As someone who has gone deep on all the Star Wars expanded stuff, like, it was a lot of fucking fun. Like, there was so much shit that I'm like, I know what that is!
I mean, I just need to see Lando's cape closet. That's really all I need in my life.
I mean, personally, he's opened the door for something I've been wanting to do for years, which is bring back the cape. Specifically the cloak. I want to bring back the cloak.
I personally think that like capes, hats, and walking sticks need to come back for gentlemen's attire.
I don't know if I told either of you this, but like I once went on a date with a Star Wars fan to Scum and Villainy over in Hollywood in my Lando costume.
Ha!
Nice.
But like, which like that's fun enough on its own. But the fact that we then left Scum and Villainy and went and did other stuff in Hollywood, and I'm still still dressed as Lando the entire time, and just like strutting down Hollywood Boulevard with like a gentle breeze pushing the cape along behind me. Like,
did you like get into a beef with like chubby Superman outside of?
Oh no, not at all. That's not Lando's style, baby.
I didn't say you started it.
Oh, man.
Those guys can get really territorial outside Grauman's. I'm just saying.
True.
Fair enough.
You did not tell me that story, but it is a wonderful story.
That's a
Isn't it?
fantastic story.
Thank you.
Oh, man. Well,
Is there anything else you'd like to add on the Jedi path before
I mean, do you guys have any questions?
Ooh. I'm trying to think.
not pre-prepared?
Yeah. I feel like I
Off
kind
the top of your head, what do you got?
What do you need me to teach you for the whole stage combat thing?
Well, I'll show you in the book. They show the different styles of lightsaber combat.
Okay.
Which that's also one of the really cool things when you start digging into Clone Wars is you see all the different styles of lightsaber combat.
You vaguely started to see it in the prequel trilogy,
Right.
between Darth Maul's style and actually Count Dooku's style.
Yeah.
Which, when you circle that back to A New Hope, had a more classical fencing quality to it as opposed to the weird thing that they had in Revenge of the Sith.
Well, my understanding is that the stuff in the original trilogy was much closer to like Scottish broadsword combat.
Well, the A New Hope, it was actually based on fencing.
Okay.
It was actually choreographed by a gentleman named Bob Anderson, rest in peace, one of the greatest fight directors who ever graced the face of the planet, who was actually Vader's fight double for the entire original series. Cool. But he was an Olympic fencer for England.
Very cool.
And he had just broken into choreographing for stage and screen, and so he was basing a lot of his choreography on fencing as opposed to more standard stage combat, which is that very, like, up until that point had been that very, like, Errol Flynn, like, swashbuckling kind of looking thing. And so then they got a different guy for Empire and Return of the Jedi, who based it on broadsword and katana.
Gotcha. Yeah, interestingly, again, going back to the different styles of combat, when you see, like, the Jedi go to arrest Palpatine in his office, and he pulls out his saber, he has a style that is much more based on stabbing than slashing.
It's that very fencing kind of quality.
Right, like, you see him really wind up for some of those stabs, and up until Force Awakens, he was the only one that we ever saw do that. Rey actually does a lot of stabbing motions.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen some fan theories about her lineage actually after Force Awakens, which linked her to Palpatine mostly due to her incredibly similar style of
fighting,
of sword fighting. Yeah.
Which I can also get into, like, why is Rey so powerful? But yeah. Oh, and fun enough. So, like, a bunch of stuff that people complained about with the way the Force got used in The Last Jedi, including the spoiler alert, like, come on, just watch the movie. The final standoff between Luke and Kylo, that power that he used is actually specifically outlined in the book The Jedi Path. So it's like all these people complained about, like, oh, that's not how the Force works. It's like, really? Because this 10-year-old book says otherwise.
Astral projection kind of quality.
Right.
Okay.
The Force doppelganger.
Which I also thought was just one of the coolest damn scenes in that movie.
Oh,
God, it was
frankly,
just awesome.
I mean, just speaking from like my own background, the fight choreography in The Last Jedi was stunning.
I mean, let's be honest. Luke Skywalker non-violently stopped an army in its tracks so that the Resistance could get away. Like, that's the most Jedi shit ever.
That is the single most Jedi thing ever.
But it had that classic element of, like, samurai duel. And it's Kurosawa. It's pure Kurosawa. It's just so damn cool.
Yeah, no, you're watching the posturing before the movement and everything. And it's just... you're talking about the stabbing thing. You see Kylo go into the I think it's third form, where he brings the saber down to his hip and has it pointed like he's going to lunge with it several times in that fight.
So talking about Kylo, which this also goes into how Darth Maul was able to survive. Because of the way the Sith operate, where their power is drawn from their hate and their anger and their rage. If you notice when Kylo got shot by Chewie with the bowcaster...
Yeah. He started hitting himself?
Right, yeah. He's punching his wound because his anger is basically keeping him from bleeding out.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, it's like you can go with that, and then even just from a physiological standpoint, it's like that would create a massive adrenaline rush, which would then feed that emotion. Right.
And so, as much as, like, I'll be honest, I gave them crap when they brought back Darth Maul, but when you really start digging into it and understanding, like, how the Sith work and how, like, all right, that makes sense. It's still a stretch.
I'd be pretty fucking pissed off if I got cut in half.
Exactly. And, like, you see how, like, his rage at both Obi-Wan and at Palpatine for abandoning him and all that, like, his arc is fantastic because he's just like, I'm going to be the monkey wrench to all of this.
Yeah. Straight into the spokes.
Right.
Although I will say, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, as soon as robot bits become like a thing that you can do, like a new robot hand, sign me the fuck up, man. I want that robot hand.
It's already a thing.
I want like the full-on like Star Wars style robot hand, where it looks the same.
Aaron Ralston's robot hand is pretty impressive. The dude who like cut his own arm off.
Oh yeah.
I saw
James Franco.
Right, James Franco.
Yeah, sure.
Notorious for slicing his own arm off.
But yeah, no, I saw an interview with him where he had the robot hand and he was like real happy with it because it can rotate 360 degrees.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's fantastic.
That's why I want robot parts, because they're better than normal parts.
Yeah, no, he was like on David Letterman, and he literally picked up a mug and rotated it 360 degrees.
Was there anything in the mug?
There was a little bit in the mug, because you definitely saw it like go down on the floor.
Did he then like Terminator crush it with his massive strength?
No, but that would have been
Did he turn it into a diamond Superman style?
These are the things you hope for. And this is what I'm talking about. When I'm saying when robot bits get to be good enough where you have like real sense of touch through them, like they can attach nerve endings and shit. That's when I want robot parts.
Right.
Fair enough.
If you start losing sense of touch, I'm against this.
Yeah. But still, robot parts. I mean, come on. Well, so I think maybe we can wrap the segment by saying we've done introduced her enough, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Or him enough, as it were.
Hello.
To quote Big Lebowski, of course. Done introduced him enough.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll move right along to get into the do the matter.
Indeed. So the Jedi Path, everybody check it out.
Yep. Big old cheers to that.
It is fascinating. We'll try not to blow out the mic when we do this time. And fascinating conversation. I look forward to looking into this a lot more.
Yeah.
So, getting to the due to the matter fell to me this week. For anybody who's like not expecting that. I don't know why, because we've been doing this for a while.
We trade off. That's what we
Sorry,
do.
I'm stalling until I actually find my spot in my bookmarks that I was looking for. No, so I actually was sifting through a lot of stuff this week, and boy, it seems like every time I do this, like the news is just terrible. So I was like trying desperately to find something that wouldn't be a downer to end us on, and this one's a little bit of both, unfortunately. But recently, I saw a little bit of social justice happen, and I was very excited to see it happen because it happened to an organization that I have quite a bit of vitriol against.
Nice.
And so just this week, a court awarded $289 million in damages to a plaintiff who had sued the agricultural organization Monsanto. So Dewayne Johnson, not to be confused with Dwayne Johnson.
Not Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Not Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Dewayne Johnson was a groundskeeper at a school who was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And
I did hear about this.
In 2015, a scientific study linked a chemical, the name of which is glyphosate, which is a major ingredient in the weed killer Roundup, which is made by Monsanto. Was linked with Johnson's cancer. And unfortunately, Johnson has been diagnosed as terminal. However, the court did actually award him almost $300 million for damages against this. And this really just kind of got me thinking about what the Tao Te Ching and by extension the Du Te Ching have to say about greed, including including chapter 74, which actually starts with desire is the fuel of ego. You will never find your true self as long as this fire burns in you. And this just really speaks to like what these organizations are doing to people around the world. Their greed and their desire for material and monetary gain is destroying the humanity within them, and it is coming at the cost of countless lives that come in contact with them. So to actually see a little bit of justice being meted out against this organization that is focused so much on just the desire for these material gains has been really inspiring, and I hope to see it a lot more. I wish Dwayne Johnson all the best. I mean, I can always say that I would pray for a miracle for him and for his family. But he's out there, you know, he has terminal cancer and has had it for 4 years, but he's still out there fighting the good fight for all of us sinners. Totally. And thank God he's winning.
Yeah, it's a little David and Goliath story, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It is 100% a David and Goliath story, and I can't admire this man more, I think. And just also reminded me of the Tao Te Ching, chapter 37, when there is no desire, all things are at peace.
Indeed. Well, actually, it's okay. So it's funny you mention this because I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast before. I've read the Tao Te Ching a couple times. I've been doing a slow read. I do a chapter a week, and I try to read that chapter every day. And the chapter I'm on right now actually touches on this almost exactly, which is sort of cool. It's chapter 53 of the Tao Te Ching. I'll read part of it because it speaks like directly to this. So Tao Te Ching chapter 53, though mansions are immaculately appointed, the surrounding fields lie fallow, and the granaries stand empty. Inside they wear elegant clothes with fine jewels dangling upon them. They eat and drink excessively, enjoying riches too innumerable to apprehend. We normally refer to this as grand larceny. Some imagine that this is a noble path, but it too is a grave deviation from the Tao. So
Yeah. No, that's
right there.
a pretty concise way to put it right there.
Well, I mean, I love, going back to Judeo-Christian, but, it's easier to pass a camel through the eye of a needle than for a wealthy man to inherit the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
It's pretty explicit.
Yeah. What was it I was talking about recently that I think it was like on a sitcom or something where somebody looked at somebody and was like, you show me in the Bible where it says I should give up all my wealth.
Someone just totally skipped the New Testament.
I was about to say, I believe that's called the New Testament.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so again, just thank God for the American legal system. Every now and then, they make every once in a while they make the right decision, and luckily in the case of Dewayne Johnson, they made the right decision this time.
Yeah, man.
Well, cheers to that.
Yeah. Well, and fuck Monsanto.
Yeah.
Well,
fuck Monsanto.
Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, clearly. So.
Yeah. This was actually a very, very intriguing story for me to hear about, because I've been vehemently opposed to Monsanto for many, many years now, and it's nice to see them finally, at least a little bit getting some of their comeuppance.
Sure.
Reaping what they have sown, as it were.
It's pretty much how I feel every time like a big bank gets their, a couple $1 billion seed off of them. I'm just like, and it's never really, it's never complete, because like they always like, oh, like, fucking like Bank of America prepared for this upcoming lawsuit by putting so much into liquid assets or whatever. Like they always are ready for it, but at the same time, like it's something, especially being a child of the recession, right? Of the recession in 2008.
Right.
Like, coming into that job market when I did, because I graduated from college in 2008, so being, of born into that
2009.
fucking...
Yeah, 2009, so like, we're all in the same boat there.
So, like, every time, though, I see one of these big companies or one of these quote-unquote too big to fail banks getting, like, even, like, kind of slap on the wrist kind of lawsuit filed against them or, like, levied against them, I'm just like, yes.
I'm happy to keep slapping.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like, yeah, just keep on slapping the motherfuckers. Like, I mean, I love it so much.
The only downside is that in the grand scheme, you recognize that what they're being sued for is essentially pocket change, but
yeah, that's the thing.
Any victory that we can take.
I was about to say, I'll take what I can get at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, there you go.
Well, but with that case, God bless Dewayne Johnson.
Yeah.
And fuck Monsanto.
Yep.
Fuck Monsanto.
I'll drink to that shit right there.
Actually, would you mind terribly? I heard a story today that I thought was fantastic, and I think it's a little bit of a higher note.
Oh,
okay.
And
sure.
You can feel free to edit me out if you feel so inclined.
No, we're not going to do
that. It was just a story that I read earlier today about how during a pride parade, here we go. Waiting for it to load. But basically, this church decided that they were going to go down to the Austin Pride Parade and give out free mom hugs.
Oh, I remember hearing about that shit. Yeah.
Free mom hugs, free dad hugs, free grandma hugs, and free pastor hugs.
Oh,
because you have to realize how many people in the LGBT community just may not get mom hugs.
Yeah. Shit, man.
And that's in Austin?
Good. Yeah, that was at the Austin Pride Parade.
Oh, man.
So
I hate to say a good thing about Texas, but damn, Austin's a good town.
But dude, I mean, everything I've ever heard about Austin has been positive.
Yeah. No, hey, Austin's a damn fine place.
Hey, we surely appreciate all of our listeners down in Texas. I don't know if you noticed, it's the second largest constituency for listeners.
I'm from Oklahoma. I'm just morally obligated to...
Oh, sure. I mean, look, I'm from California, man. Hashtag West Coast, Best Coast. But, I mean, at the same time, like, I've always had, like, I don't know, like, I know a lot of people who either come from Texas or have since moved to Texas. So I don't know, man. I feel like a sense of
The weather sucks, but everything else is more or less.
I don't really have strong feelings on Texas one way or the other, so.
Yeah. Well. But hey, man, sounds like a hell of a cool thing at the Pride Parade.
Yeah, I was about to say, those people are doing the dude's work right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. That's some doodly behavior right there.
So I thought that'd be fun to close.
That's
on.
excellent. Yeah, my other one. If I was actually going to close on a high note, I was watching John Oliver, and it turns out Vilnius, Lithuania, which is the capital, just started a new tourism campaign, in which they refer to themselves as the G-spot of Europe. The tagline being. We may be hard to find, but once you get here, it's amazing.
Delightful.
Fantastic.
And, thank God for the Lithuanians bringing a little joy into this world.
I want to go to Lithuania now.
I mean, it's Lithuania and Austin, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I want to go to fucking Vilnius right now.
Vilnius and Austin, High Points. Look, if we're ever going to do a live podcast tour, I mean, those are like...
I'd be willing to go to either one of those places.
Dude, I'd be
I
so
will
down.
walk the earth with you.
Yeah, by all means. Well, folks, thanks so much again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Episode 10, man. This is exciting stuff.
Oh, hot damn.
We're into double digits.
I'm excited to be a part of this.
Yay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, thanks for coming,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on the episode with us. We really appreciate it. You'll be joining us again in the future.
Yes.
I believe that you wanted to discuss great dudes in history. You actually have broached the subject of discussing the Doctor.
Yes.
As in Doctor Who.
You know, my mother once told me that my pop culture knowledge would get me somewhere, and somehow I always knew it was an apartment in the valley. But I've seen
sitting in front of a microphone, sweating into your folding chair.
But I've seen every extant episode of Doctor Who, and I have compiled at least what I think is a pretty good depiction.
Now, have you seen the Paul McGann movie?
Of course I have.
Okay, silly.
I've also listened to the audio dramas.
Yeah. All right, fine. Didn't mean to start a fight over it.
Don't come at me on the Doctor.
But yeah, so I mean, look forward to that in the future here, dear listener. We will be talking about the Doctor as a great dude of history. The Doctor as a whole. I, for one, am incredibly excited about the new season coming up here.
Yes.
I'm cautiously optimistic. For one thing, and I'll get into it in the Doctor Who podcast, but I have very specific ideas on how they should have done the transition from male to female, because there are rules in the canon for it. But aside from that, this will be Chris Chibnall's first season as showrunner, because Stephen Moffat left after last season.
Which is fine by me, I'm not gonna lie. That's just me.
You know what? I respect your difference of opinion.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
It should be a very interesting episode. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And until then, I ask that everybody...
Oh, sorry.
I ask that everybody please go on iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes, please.
Keeps us visible and allows us to keep doing this. If you're enjoying what you're hearing right now, please help us out by doing that.
That'd be super swell. Also, a little bit of, I guess, end of episode housekeeping time. You can reach us on social media. We are on Facebook at PDDcast.
We are also on Twitter at PDDcast, and you can send us an email at pddcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, concerns,
whatever you got, really.
Messages, requests for subjects,
segments, suggestions, whatever you got, man. Like, hit us up and let us know. Also like to shout out our music. We have been using a song called 2 p.m. Wake Up Call by Apache Tomcat. It's off the album.
They're from Texas.
They are from Texas. There you go. That song is off the album Classics by Request. Excuse me. And I highly recommend checking them out. They're good stuff.
Every single album that I've listened to so far has been fantastic. So by all means, go check them out.
Yep. And let's see. Oh, we're a part of Unit 24 Productions, proud member of the Podcasting Network.
Yep.
We're going to have a new podcast coming up soon.
I promise. It's actually going to come out eventually.
We've been talking about this for like a couple months now, but it's coming up real soon here.
Yeah, no, I'm just like fighting with Apple help right now because I've got some technological issues that make me want to hurl my laptop through a window.
That struggle is real. But yeah, that'll be called Zone of the Unknown, right?
Yeah, Zone of the Unknown with me and Jose, talking about cryptids and mysteries and the paranormal and all that good stuff.
That sounds fantastic.
I think it's pretty good. I mean, I've already edited 5 episodes. I just need freaking iTunes to approve it.
I mean, I'm on board with this. I keep making the joke that listening to Purpose-Driven Dudes is like, hanging out with you guys, except I don't get to talk.
Well, we remedied that.
I know.
So yeah, no, I'm really excited for this one to come up though. I enjoy a good. I think I said before, I enjoy a good ghost story. I enjoy a good cryptid story.
Well, I've got plenty of both.
I'm really excited about this upcoming podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Check out Your Fav is Problematic with Liz and Kristen, delving into some of the problems that we see in pop culture, both past and present, and what we can do to improve upon it in the future.
Yeah, it's a fun time. They just did an episode on Drake, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten around to listening to it yet because I've been listening to my West Wing podcast.
Oh, it's like the best reason.
Which is the most Brad thing I've ever heard said out loud.
Yeah, it's up there.
Was there anything else? I think that...
No, I think we've covered all our bases.
All right, well then I suppose...
Fuck it, dude.
Fuck it, dude. And also, hey, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
Yeah.
Let's go bowling.
Sounds good.
I'm on board.